And I think we are live here. Let's see.
We look live.
We look live.
If your phones are working, we'll get a text message.
Yeah. Somebody tell us if we're on. Billy, are we on?
Your phone's not
My
working.
phone's not working, so we're counting on you guys.
Good afternoon and welcome to Season 4, Episode 7 of the Van Dyke Mortgage CatchMark Sports Podcast, brought to you by Durga Insurance Group. We're live from the CatchMark Podcast Room in our Whitehall office. I'm Tate Stine. I'm joined by two of the other three co-hosts in our spring podcast rotation. We got Ken Byard. Ken, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Billy Man gave us thumbs up. We're live, baby. We're rolling.
Good. Ken, how was your weekend?
It was good. Yeah. Enjoyed the weather on yesterday. Enjoyed the city championship game there with North Muskegon on Saturday. Not the greatest weather, but kids played well and got it done. So that was fun.
Oh, yeah. What was the final score of that one?
12-2, I think.
Oh, my.
But that was Shores, though.
That was
Puffer 6-0, I think.
Oh, I gotcha.
Not that I paid attention.
Yeah. Go Rockets.
Mild reaction with the Go Rockets.
Yeah.
Cody, how about you?
It was great. I had friends come over from the east side, so we had some college buddies over for Cinco de Mayo and played some pickleball on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
I had our nice little tournament. You know, like the football players are, I guess, just enjoying that competition where we don't have to run and move as much. So it's more side to side, but it got a little heated, obviously.
The pickleball did?
Oh, yeah.
Did you win?
Yeah. I lost every game, I think.
Are you sore?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not that sore.
Oh, no?
No.
Still a baller.
The two guys had played pickleball. The guys on my team hadn't played pickleball, so I mean it was one of those deals. But no, it was a lot of fun. It was nice weather for the most part.
Yeah.
It's nice to see the green starting to show. So
Yeah.
For sure.
And then, of course, let's welcome our guest, Mr. Mark Platt, Superintendent for Hart Public Schools. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of
Appreciate
course. Yeah, how you doing?
it. I'm doing pretty good.
Good. Had a good weekend yourself?
I did. I'm getting ready to be a grandparent for the first time.
Oh, really?
So,
Congratulations.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Baby due in July, so baby shower this weekend.
Nice.
A lot of activities.
Good
so
stuff.
All good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Before we dive too much further into the discussion, though, let's take a moment to thank our sponsors: Grieve Law, West Michigan Joint Divorce Lawyers; Big Stone Therapy; Green Ridge Realty with Chris Dykema and Sarah Reel; North Grove Brewers; Foundation Systems of Michigan and John Biden; Coldwell Banker with Dave Dusenberry; and Scheid Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. And let's give a special thank you to our title sponsors, Van Dyke Mortgage Lakeshore, whose commitment to find you the right home loan is second to none. Their experienced licensed team is ready to work with you to ensure a smooth and timely loan process from application to closing. Check them out at 460 W West Western Ave in Muskegon, or give them a call at 231-332-6500. And don't forget Durga Insurance Group, which looks at success through a different set of lenses, placing the relationship with their clients first. Regardless of what stage you're in at life, they're there for you each step of the way to offer the level of insight and care you deserve. Check them out at their offices on 1535 Far Road in Norton Shores, or call them Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 231-744-9106. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons on our CatchMark SportsNet YouTube channel, and make sure you like and follow us on social media platforms including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, TikTok. And as a reminder, hit us up in the comment section on this YouTube show. We already have Amy Yonkman with the You Are Live. Thank you. Just making sure. And Sean with the You're Live Low. Thank you very much. And let's just go ahead and dive right into things with Mr. Platt here. Why don't you let us know where kind of you grew up, where you started out, the natural progression of how you are where you are today.
All right. So I grew up in two places, Manistee, for half of my schooling. I moved to Orchard View, where I graduated from in 1984. So
Class 84.
yeah, I'm starting to date myself between the thing, 84. But actually, there's three soups in the conference that are Orchard View grads.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, isn't it kind of weird?
It is.
You got Jimmy Nielsen, who's like the godfather of Orchard View.
Who is Orchard View?
He is Orchard
Right.
View, right? Nobody knows more about him than Orchard View than he does.
Right.
Then Greg Helmer from 1990, I believe. So who still is just a handsome devil. Kind of.
Always. It's those Calvin guys.
Yeah.
Calvin guys.
That's it.
They just
That's it. So actually, I started working at Oak Ridge back in 1990.
Okay.
Worked with Jack Sugars, Joe Coletta for about a decade. Moved over to Mona Shores. Did elementary principalship there for 13 years, and 10 years ago went to Hart.
Nice. I like it. And then what about growing up? Any sports that you were playing?
You know, I played. The contribution factor is very questionable, but I did play football. My best seasons were when Jimmy was either graduated or up on varsity. So I played the same position as Jim, so I always kind of liked it when he went up to varsity, or my senior year when he was gone.
You get a little PT, huh?
That's when I got
What position?
Tight end.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Notice, back those days, they didn't call them wide receivers, and thank goodness.
Right.
I can't catch.
Cody, do you know what a tight end is?
Yeah, we found one in our program.
Oh, just the one.
Yeah.
Nice. So obviously you're at the position that you are now. You're wearing a lot of different hats when it comes to teaching, up in those supervisional positions. Who really inspired you to go the route that you did so that you got where you are today?
From my parents were very supportive, still are supportive.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some recent things where both of my parents have reached out, and provided their input and guidance on a few things. So even at the age of 57, they still influence me. So, and they've just crafted like the ability to know when to intervene as opposed to coming in early. When they see me totally getting ready to screw something up, that's usually show up. But in a work life, Jack Sugars was an enormous influence on me. A very good friend of mine, you guys probably all know him, Joe Coletta, was super instrumental, still is. We're very good friends. And then I would tell you that when I got the Shores, that was kind of a void. There was just one person there who I felt was a tremendous influence, and her name was Ann Carden. I thought she was just a stand-up lady, did a great job.
So Mark and I actually worked at Shores together. I was the middle school dean of students and assistant principal in AD, and so I had the privilege of working with Mark for 9 years. You were there before I was.
Yeah.
So we worked together in different settings, but quality person, quality educator, which brings me to my question. You did teach, right?
I did.
Okay. What did you teach? And during your career, have you coached?
Yeah. So I taught at Oak Ridge.
Okay.
Taught alternative ed, and we figured out early on. So this was back in early 1990 through about 2000. That in order to make it to the state championship, you had to have a kid out of alternative ed, because that's what I taught. Playing nose guard. Nose guard and special teams. Yeah. If you had that kid, you had a shot. So, but yeah, that's where I taught. That's where I coached, and yeah, it was a great time. Great time.
So what are all in total, if you could sum it up for us, what are all the different school districts that you've worked in?
So, student teaching, I spent a semester at Spring Lake. In college, I worked at Alma Public Schools for a semester. I worked at Mount Pleasant for a semester. But Oak Ridge, Mona Shores, and Hart sum it up.
Okay. So you've had all these different experiences, few different places, bounced around a little bit, West Michigan Conference.
Yeah.
How would you say that those different experiences at those different schools have really shaped who you are today, not only as a person, but a leader too?
Interesting question. I'll tell you that I knew when I was at Shores that when I wanted to become a superintendent, I knew it was going to be a school district in the West Michigan Conference.
Really?
I just knew that was the size of school that I was interested in. I applied at Whitehall. I applied at Montague. I got kind of close there in terms of they almost gave me an interview. That was kind of good.
Step in the right direction.
Yeah. And then ended up at Hart, where I've been now for 10 years. But it's a little bit, I've always phrased it as Goldilocks and the Three Bears, you know, when you walk in and this porridge is too hot, this one's too cold, this one's too just right. I knew at Oak Ridge that the size of that district at the time, it's bigger now, but at the time it just felt really good, like you knew almost everybody. But when you got the Shores, it was a little different.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
It was 4 times the size in a way, at least compared to where I'm at right now. And so every building to a certain extent was isolated. And that was I always felt that was a very difficult thing for them to manage. And as a result, you didn't necessarily, and I don't know how you felt when you were there, but I can't say that I felt like a sailor. I felt like a Churchill rock star, because that was the name of the school, you know. And I think you guys
I mean, when you get into systems that big, it's easy to feel like you're in a silo, because for the most part you are, and you work with the people in your building, and as much as you want to be a sailor and be on that team, and we do all the things to help nurture that. It's hard to. It's just by nature, it's hard to. And so, I mean, it's not a size of school like Cody was at, and I'm sure that you had that same,
3,500,
same feel with the school that big.
Yeah, well, I can just speak on from Montague to Reese Puffer. I mean, just in that point too. I mean, Montague growing up there as well, I knew a lot of people, but I could go to an elementary school or middle school and know most of the people in there, and kind of have a background for the most part. Where at Reese Puffer, we're going through schools right now with our varsity football players doing some reading and trying to, get some kids to our event, the spring bash, it's March 19th at 6 p.m. You can bring any of your kids. But we're doing everything we can. And I don't know, we're at a silo too. Like when you talk about silos, like we're just doing whatever we can do to perfect our small community and hopefully kind of be able to bring connection to the larger community. But, and down in South Georgia, I mean, we had 3 elementaries. We had 4 elementaries. We had 3 middle schools, and then we had 1 big high school. So there is, it's really difficult to build community in that means. Yeah. But I can definitely, attest to that it is difficult to be able, you just do your job almost, and it's harder to kind of wear a bunch of, be able to get a bunch of things done at the same time. Like one thing that I always tell, the younger generation that's going into education is they go to a smaller school first. That would be just from my own experience, wear a bunch of hats and then learn a bunch of skills because of that, and then dive into a larger school if that's like what you want to do. But running the scoreboard, being the microphone person at basketball, football games, now you're game time manager, now you're the football coach, now you're it's just, it does give you a lot of skills, when you are at a smaller school like that.
So you brought up talking to younger kids about going into education. What are you telling kids? Like, I mean, you're having conversations with young teachers. They're frustrated. The world of education is just different now. And what are you saying to kids who are like, hey, I think I want to get into teaching? What if your own kid tells you they want to get into education? What are you saying?
Well, to be honest with you, I think that answer's changed a little bit. You got to shoot them straight, because it's just not the same as when we went in.
Right.
It's totally different now. Some of the benefits are different now. Post-COVID, some of the behaviors are exacerbated now, but it's still rewarding. I mean, I get up every day and am happy to go to work, and I've always had that, but I will tell you that I think you got to tell them the truth, because the reward is not going to be in the money. It's just not going to be there. But there is something incredibly rewarding about working with kids and working with families and making an impact. And that's, I think the narrative. And I don't know as a profession if we do a great job with that narrative. Some of our best ambassadors are our staff. And, when they go home, if they're talking about things in a negative light, who hears that? Well, their kids.
Yeah,
they're friends of their kids. And it's like we can be our own worst enemy at times. It's still a great profession. I would encourage anybody to go into it. And we're it's a huge shortage out there, and yet I've never seen so many loopholes to get in. 2 meetings I had today were about how to get a couple of folks on board to be staff members through a non-traditional route. I mean, it is truly a great field to be in, but you just really don't have to do it the way that we all did it. 4-year university student teach. Yeah, it's all for the birds anyways.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that shortage is real. And so, we do have to look at ways to get more people involved in education because, like you said, it is rewarding. Oftentimes a calling, right? Because it's not about the money. But, and we just hope that kids continue to see the benefits of, being in front of kids and shaping lives.
Yeah, there's plenty of people out there that want to take action in their community, and this is, one of the best professions to do so. I like I had buddies over this weekend, and, they asked one of, my, DC, like, how do you like with the work? Like, he's like, what work? He's like, I just wake up and, I enjoy what I do, and I feel like I have a purpose, and I feel like I'm growing. I feel like, all of those things that you're looking for out of like life and out of a career. He's like, I have it. So it's just awesome. Like, so it's just like one of those things. Like, that's just, obviously enlightening, but at the same time, there are a lot of people out there that are truly, maybe not totally satisfied, but they're close to it when it comes to their job and the impact that they're making.
Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about becoming a teacher myself. I might be going down that route. And I think that a lot of the issues that kids my age have when they're trying to find what they want to do is they're looking for one defining moment where it's like an aha moment where now I know what I want to do. Was there anything like that for you, or was it a long process where you had to work your way through, have those different hats like Cody said?
Yeah, so there was a defining moment. I was in college, junior college, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to go into psychology, and then I realized I had to go to school for 8 years.
Dude, me too.
And I'm out.
Paper and I was
Psych.
like, deuces, I'm out of here, man.
This is a bad joke. But there was an assignment that a prof gave us, and that it was to observe an early childhood program. So here I was observing this preschool program, and you had to do so many hours in there for this particular assignment. And as I'm doing it, I kind of become attached to this little kid that can't be about 3 years old, maybe 4. And Monday rolls around, kid's gone. And I'm like, where's so-and-so? She died. And it was just awful. And
Jeez.
It was just one of those moments where when you found out from what, it was horrible. Yeah. And so I was really liking working with kids at that time. And so that was the first experience and a defining experience. The second one was I was trying to get into the field of education. There was a teacher from Orchard View. His name was John McKinley. Really good guy. And he had encouraged me to look into that field. And as part of it, he gave me some advice one time, hey, you got to get your 90 hours in. So I was volunteer coaching track. And it was a great experience. I really liked working with this older group as opposed to maybe this, younger group. And then I just realized I like working with kids. Now, the ironic part, that group of kids that I got to kind of help coach, if you will, during the 80s, ended up playing Reese Puffer, I believe, for the state championship. I'm trying to think.
For football?
Yeah, remember the year that Puffer won with that incredible
92.
Yeah.
Go Rockets.
Yeah.
Every time.
So my wife is a Rocket grad. So
okay.
Go Rockets.
Yeah.
Well, I think we all have had that one person or that one defining moment, right? Somebody that kind of makes you realize that this could be something that you want to do. Mine was Lee Leiden. He was our junior year college prep teacher. He was a former Marine, moved to Agre, small little town, and just like blew the doors off of like conventional learning. And I knew as a junior in high school, I'm like, that's what I want to do. And he got me into lifting and just, all the other stuff and getting involved with school that, maybe I wouldn't have. But I knew from the moment I stepped in his classroom, like, that's the dude. That's going to make me. And I knew as a junior in high school, I'm going to teach, I'm going to coach. Yeah, it's crazy.
So when you flip the script on you, when you're doing the hiring, can you see through some people, like some of these people saw through you and said, hey, this person's going to be a really good educator, or this person's going to be a really good leader?
So I do believe that one of my strengths is hiring. We have a very talented administrative team. I think that administrative team does a nice job hiring their teachers. But yeah, in the end, the number one thing that I think that I'm looking for is character. I can teach just about anybody the job, but character and hard work, those two things, the kind of a rare deal now as far as that hard work part. There's a lot of people that don't want to work.
Facts.
Yeah, don't let the facts ruin the story.
Right.
Oh, my old line coach used to say that. Oh, God.
He's at PTSD.
Mighty
Flashback. The trauma.
Yeah.
But, we've got Kevin Ackley. He's been in the district a long time. I mean, you talk about just a stand-up guy. You guys know Troy Moran, obviously. We have him. We've had him for a couple of years. Stand-up guy. Michaela Dennert, our special ed director, outstanding. And then we just have this dynamo of elementary principal in Andrea Deegan. So it's been a pretty good deal all the way around. And I haven't hired all of them, but I've hired 3 of the 4.
Your job's a lot easier when you have good people around you.
Oh, Lord.
And is that a
That's a fact.
Is that your psychology background? You think a little bit like you're interested in how people work, so that are you diving in when you're diving into the hiring process? How do you decipher like good character or bad character? Obviously characteristics, but how do you do that?
Well, I stalk people.
Yeah.
So
Profiler, right?
Right.
Told you, man, the FBI
Retirement
can hire
gig.
me. I'm a profiler.
So if you give me a list of references, that's going to be the group of people I don't call. All right. So because you know what they're all going to tell you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, he's great. Oh, I love him. Well, go ahead and talk to the people that are working with him that aren't listed there.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and take a look at how they live their life. And don't ask them how they live their life. Go find somebody that knows how they live their life. Now you'll be able to sort through the weeds and figure it out. But I'll tell you, as a team, we have spent all kinds of time and some decent money, really, at working on us as a team. Patrick Luciani, a well-known author, the ideal teammate, author of that book, as well as the five dysfunctions.
Yeah.
Team.
Good book.
We're reading that right now. It's actually
that's
as a coaches group and a leadership group with our seniors. Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
there's a guy that we used from, he's out of Grand Rapids, David Vermeil. He walked us through a series of meetings over the course of a year as an administrative team with those books. And then he has you do some work where you take some of these personality profile tests and whatnot, and you can kind of see where you figure in and where some of your colleagues figure in, and how do you as an individual relate to the person that's different than you,
Right.
and the person that's similar to you. So it's been some really good work. I'm nearing the end of my career, so I'm enjoying this stage of it for sure.
I still want to stick with your background a little bit. We've talked about your professional background mostly so far, but
True.
you've also brought up, you were coaching track a little bit. I want to ask you, how long did you coach and what sports were you coaching all your career? What have you coached?
I really coached mainly football. The only time I've done track was when I needed the hours or somebody needed a coach. You do not want me coaching track. In 1990, I coached track at Oak Ridge, girls track, mainly because they really did not have anyone. So I was getting married, needed the money. Hey, sound like a plan. Hey, by the way, you guys do know I'm getting married on the day of the state meet, right?
So let's not be too good.
So football is what I mainly coached, and I coached it from 1990 through about 2000 with Jack and Joe. Had a different capacities there. Started out head junior high coach, stayed there for a few years. No, I only did that for a year. Did head JV coach for a few years. Was on the varsity as a volunteer assistant for a couple of years. And then after I got to administration, it was kind of hard to juggle both. And so at that point, I started to just help out on Friday nights. And my job at that point was to scout. So I scouted every Friday night. Matter of fact, the only game I saw that year was the state championship game. It was a good year.
Yeah, that's a good year.
What year was that?
1997.
Yep. All right.
Okay. And do you have any of those, probably about a decade you said, is there one or two really specific memories that sticks in your mind when you think back on it?
Oh, yeah.
That don't include Bonickies.
Well, I just took
Tate's
half
like
of them.
Bonickies?
Over my head.
Oh, yeah, it would be. Don't take that wrong.
No, it's,
So, yeah, early on, there was a kid. He ended up being 6'11". His name was Brandon Pops. And Brandon is a big, strong man, drives an excavator. And he hadn't been out for the ball club before. And I had taken over a team that had gone 2-4 the year before. And we, even as an 8th grader, Brandon was 6 foot something. Okay. So, you know how it goes. Some 8th graders are 4'7". If you can get Brandon the ball, he's probably not getting tackled.
That's just good coaching. Give it to the biggest kid.
You don't need Albert Einstein calling the plays on this one. So we had an end around because one of the plays that you can throw at junior high with some degree of accuracy, especially if the tight end is 6 foot something, is the pop pass, right? So we also had Brandon Pop run the end around, and as Brandon rounds the corner, he sees his dad coming in the gate. And he wasn't expecting to see his dad come in the gate. And my gosh, there were just bodies.
Just carnage.
And we're playing Shores at the time. So it's a much bigger school. And Pops gets into the end zone. And granted, he does celebrate with his team, but not without high-fiving his dad first.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was a great thing.
That's awesome. So, you've been in West Michigan for the most part. Who are some standout athletes that come to mind as you look over your years in the area?
Well, Curtis Adams, I remember that because have you ever looked sideways out of a helmet, like through the ear hole?
Yes.
So I had the privilege of playing for Lou Graham, who was just a class act.
Yeah, rest
great
in
guy.
peace. Yep.
Yeah, and I was his teacher's aide first hour, but somewhere along the way, the junior high, or excuse me, the JV had to scrimmage the varsity.
And they had Curtis Adams?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. That went well. I was playing safety, and I think it was because that was a good spot to hide me. And Curtis comes through the line, and of course, there's 10 other guys that could have tackled him, but no one has.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And I tried, I think. I closed my eyes, and that was it. It was awful.
This leg's the size of you, is one leg.
Oh, yeah.
Well, had a successful career in the
at that
NFL,
age, yeah.
right? Played for the Chargers.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
But, there was Mark Hughes, I think, of from Reese Puffer. Just a great guy. Really good guy. I think to Mona Shores, they've had a couple of players that have come out of there that I knew because I had them as kids.
For sure.
J.J. Walker, you remember him? The Walker twins or sisters. I should say.
Yep.
They're phenomenal. I mean, the stories that who's the middle one? There's
The Jordan.
Jasmine and Jordan.
Right.
You know the number of degrees Jordan Walker's got?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
I mean, what she's going to do after she's done playing,
Right.
I don't know. She'll be successful.
Right.
I'm sure they will be.
Yeah, using basketball as a vehicle. What about jumps? We're going to jump forward to Hart. What's going on there?
Yeah, good question.
We'd like to keep that a secret.
Yeah,
Something in the water.
Something's going on there. But what are you seeing from your balcony view? Because obviously you know, maybe you're on the board with hiring some of these coaches, but from the sounds of it, you're allowing your administrative team to kind of take that on and kind of do what you trust them to do. But what are you seeing from your lens?
10 years ago, we worked on a strategic plan. Worked on it at Grace Adventures. The guy that helped facilitate the plan was working for them. He now was our AD. So that's been helpful because he was able to take some of the information, put his own vision on there. But in the end, we've allowed him to make the hires, but they were starting to have success before I got there. When you stop and you take a look at that running world,
Yeah, seriously.
holy moly.
Right.
I mean, even when I was at Oak Ridge back in the 90s, Hart was known for track.
Right.
I mean, they were good. You know, you take a look at Terry Tatro, that it's hard to get to the cross country state meet. It's one thing if you can get a kid there, but to get a whole team there, that's saying something. He's done it for at least 10 years in a row.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that's pretty phenomenal. And of course, he won't take credit for it. You know, he's just very humble about it. To get a little more specific, we're truly not building our programs on wins and losses. We're building it on culture. We're trying to teach kids about living life and how to use sports to navigate life. How do you work with people? How do you work with people you don't like? You know, I had to work with Ken.
Touche. Well played. Well played.
But we are trying to use sports as a vehicle to go through life, and it sounds cliché, but and while grit's a part of it, it's only a small part of it. We want our coaches to be positive. I don't want them barking on top of the kids all the time. It's one thing to do it, like, hey, every now and then that's got to happen.
Right. Discipline.
Yeah, or if you're upset because they screwed the play up 3 times in a row, okay, man, you got the right.
Right.
But whatever you do, because Jack Sugars was the one that taught us this, if you're going to do that, you better be building them up. You know, and it's going to take more than 1 or 2
Right.
comments to build that kid up if you just said something. And it's too easy to coach and point out the negative stuff. That's easy. You're not a good coach if that's what
Yeah, I don't even know if that's coaching, right? That's criticizing.
Exactly.
It's not building.
So there isn't a coach on our staff that would be allowed to stay if that's how they behave. Like, you're out, you know. So this is about the kids. It's for the kids. Our coaches already played their 4 years.
So are you feeling that that excitement in the community? It's a proud community, small community. I'm sure that the school, just like a lot of other area schools, that's kind of the center of town, center of attention. Are you getting all that support that you know, good vibes from the community too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, so, I mean, even before this year, they were proud to be Pirates always. That's one thing I learned when I got up there. Winning has been a nice outcome, but that community is proud to be a Pirate, and they just are. And so now that there's all these fun things going on. I mean, you'll see the Hart H. You've been on campus. It's everywhere. People absolutely love being a Pirate. We have folks that are in their upper 70s that don't miss a basketball game. It's not like they got a kid playing or a grandkid playing. They just, it is the entertainment of
For sure.
town.
Yeah,
Well,
that's awesome.
I've heard them being a girls basketball coach. I know they're there.
Hey, you were like one of the hardest coaches to beat.
I know those 70-year-olds. They got their popcorn.
Now, we placed them real close to the opposing bench.
Yeah.
Strategic.
Yeah, I like that. I knew there was something up there.
That's the only influence I've had there.
No, it is a tough place to play, man. On a Friday night, you circle that in girls hoops. In the WMC, you would circle that one on a Friday night if you were playing there on Friday night or not. And then you do the Tuesday, Thursday in WMC. So like when you see a Thursday night one, you're like, man, I wish it was Friday, because that it turns into like a little Hoosiers up there.
Yeah,
it's just a difficult place to play. As you come out, they're booing, and it's just they're on top of you, and it's just like this is what it's about.
Yeah,
this is like this community's all in and wants to beat us. Let's get after it.
Let's get it on.
Let's get it going.
Right.
This year we ended up putting things called a go blow, and you mount them up in the ceiling, and you put your logo, and it shines down onto the floor.
Love it.
Yeah. Oh, it was cool.
And it's little things like that, though. That really make a difference. Yeah.
We played them at the girls' games, and they just loved them.
Yeah.
You turned the lights down, and fortunately, our lights are LED and not those old ones.
Yeah.
We got to wait 20 minutes for them to flip back on. But man, it was incredible. So
I'm assuming you went down to the girls' semifinals.
yeah, they needed lessons in dunking, so I volunteered.
Yeah, that's what I figured. They just ran into a juggernaut, right? I mean,
Yeah, we'll be back.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back. So we did close school for half a day. We said it was going to be raining buckets. That was the announcement.
Love it.
Put out. I did take a little heat for that one, but it was still worth it.
The raining buckets piece or the canceling the school?
The cancel.
Okay.
The raining buckets part.
That is pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, come on, play along.
So we did run into a tough team. They had been there before, and you all know, you get to that big stage that first time, man, you could. It's just hard to explain it. And our coach had not been in that situation before. I mean, unless you've been there, it's how do you do it? It's hard. It's just hard.
Yeah.
I still remember in 1990 walking into the Silver Dome with Joe and Jack, and I remember Jack saying, "Don't look up." Like, how can you not? This is so cool,
Right.
So it just happens.
Yeah.
So
That's when you got to bust out the old tape measure and measure the hickory. How high is it? 10 feet.
Well, when we took Ford Field in 2020, it was empty, so that part was kind of
Oh, yeah, that's
too.
weird.
So during the COVID ball, you take it over. You're like, don't look up. You're like, there's nothing in here. Like you can
That's
hear
eerie.
everyone talking. Like that. Yeah, that was a little difficult. To kind of get to understand that environment. But no, I commend whatever Hart's doing up there. The people that you guys are hiring. And just the atmosphere. Do you have a chance just to get your popcorn and sit and watch, or do you feel you're at work?
I never feel like I'm.
That's awesome.
Those nighttime functions are a blast. I do not view it as work at all. I enjoy watching the kids. I enjoy watching the coaches. But then again, even during the day, the part that makes this job enjoyable is watching people succeed, achieve their goals. That's the part that's rewarding. And like I said, I'm nearing the end of my career, but when that's not enjoyable, I know it'll be time to go.
Yeah, right. Right.
So this year's been special. I mean, you stop and take a look at some of the things that have gone on.
And yet to come still. I mean, track still out there making, a good push to win another state championship. And
I wasn't going
not
to say
jinx
anything
it.
about that.
I'll say it. I mean, that thing's a juggernaut, right? And it's because Jaswinski's coaching, and she's the head coach, and Ackley and that whole track staff, right? I mean, they've got it dialed in.
Yeah, so there's no doubt that the coaches are very good. Yeah, it's Calvin Ackley, it's Ken Kimes. Those are two. That Jess Jaswinski runs like, oh my gosh.
Next level.
Yeah, I mean,
Great DNA. I mean, your mom's the 2-time Big Ten Athlete of the Year, and your dad ran at Western, I think, right?
Yeah, and I think she was a 4-time All-American.
Yeah, that's decent, I guess.
Yeah.
Jeans, I
She's
guess.
from Hart? How'd you recruit her?
Oh, she's not from Hart.
Goodrich.
To be honest with you, I don't know.
Right?
Is she from Goodrich?
Somewhere down the Merrill, somewhere down there. Yeah, it's an interesting story.
That
like
is.
when they because we had them at Shores for a while. All the accolades, like Mark said, 4-time All-American. And then they had this horrific tornado that their house got destroyed, and they were literally underneath the rubble. If you look up MLive or do the Google stuff, it's all in there. It's an amazing story. But yeah, I mean, you talk about a pedigree. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I saw our son running down the road the other day. There's just something unique about their skill set, their ability.
Yeah.
We have a few athletes in the school right now where they're just a next level. And you think about class and how you differentiate instruction. There are a few kids in our programs right now where we almost have to differentiate the practice.
For sure.
Because they are just.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's a nice problem to have. I mean, you stop and take a look at Kellen Kimes. You guys met him at all? This is the happiest dude you'll ever meet in your life. The national hammer throw champion. He probably is going to win the state in both the discus and shot put.
Yeah.
Again.
We hosted Hart last year, and we had to make an announcement on the PA that if you're parked on the street by the discus area, you're going to want to move your car because Kynes was throwing, and literally every car along the road, everyone moved, and thank goodness because he threw it on the street. We had to change the angle of the markings so that we could eat up more grass. Otherwise, he was taking cars out, bro. Like you need to move your car now. Wow. People come racing out, moving their cars. It's something to see. That dude, next level.
Yeah.
Next level.
Absolutely.
And a great kid.
Great kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, great kid. Always smiling.
Yeah.
And you talked about, how important athletics are and the kind of things that they teach kids when they go in the real world. And I want to get Cody's input and Ken's input after you give your 2 cents. How important are athletics really as an extension of the classroom at the high school level, do you feel?
I think any extracurricular we offer, and that would include sports, but you could say drama, some of the clubs, robotics, they're tremendously influential. I can't imagine, can't picture, nor would I want to doing school without those things.
Exactly. I mean, exactly that. The goal ultimately is for a kid to go through school and come out a well-rounded, contributing member of society.
Right.
And you don't get that unless you get exposed to different things, teams, clubs, plays, band, whatever your niche is. Just get involved because it ultimately makes you a better person, right? I can't imagine going to a school that doesn't have a football team. Like that to me is crazy. But to not have all those other avenues and opportunities for kids, it's sad that there are places that don't do that. And unfortunately, we have some schools that don't do those things, and it is what it is. But I know me personally, I want my kids involved in all the stuff because it just makes you a better, more well-rounded person.
Yeah, I think character development second to none when it comes to athletics and locker rooms. You know what I mean? I mean, it's my own experience learning from, being a part of teams that have 100, plus people. Like you, right then and there, you're understanding it's not where you come from. It's not necessarily your circumstances. It has everything to do with how you perceive the world and your experiences and sometimes how you failed and how you responded to those types of things, and it allowed that character to be your own personal character to be developed. So we call them character skills, not traits, because like we're always growing and trying to improve them and get better. And like that's sport in my mind. I like all sports. So like I'm not a big hey, you just got to play football or basketball or baseball, the big three there. It's just like all of those sports are going to give you an opportunity to have moments to fail And I think that's what we're struggling with right now in society, is like understanding like how to fail and just kind of move forward and learn and keep growing as individuals. And there's nothing better than sport, because there's nothing like putting that film on from the day before, and that play's coming up, and you're like, come on, coach, just press next. Like, just press next. And you have to sit through it and just, take it on, head on, and just, you're a better person for that. So when your boss comes down 10 years later and says, hey, I need this out of you, or I need that, it's not a shot, at you, as a human being. It's just like, okay, I got to do a better job holding this role on this team to improve upon these things. And sport taught me that, not the classroom.
Right. It's such a safe place to fail, and it's not real life, right? And so you can fail forward and do things and learn things that you don't necessarily have the opportunity to do so in real life, because failure in real life takes on a whole another meaning, and so we want to put kids in those safe spaces to fail, and sports one of those.
Right.
Yeah, you said it really well. That failing piece, not being afraid to fail, and how do coaches handle when something goes wrong during a game? Because that's obviously the stakes are a little higher than at practice, but how does a coach handle that? I think that's a tremendous opportunity for a coach to, show their growth. I love how Joe Tanis handles some things. He's got this saying, E plus R equals O, and event plus response equals the outcome.
Yep.
And he lives by that. I love it. He doesn't necessarily jerk that kid out of the game when they screwed up. And that kid starts to learn that it's okay. Hey, coach didn't pull me just because I screwed up.
Right.
He still likes me. And, that relationship part, it is so, at least in my memory, and maybe this is me, maybe I screwed it up that bad as a coach, I don't know, but it is so important for those kids to know that you care, because once they know that you care, they're gonna give you everything they got.
Yep.
Yeah, as an adult, man, now, as a student when I was younger, having an adult who cared or believed in me, went a long ways. I wanted to prove them right. I wanted to work harder for them, and it was, or your brothers, or even your teammates. We talked to 5 dysfunctions of a team. Like, building trust is the foundation of that. And it's just like having an adult or having a peer, having a teammate believe in you, it just makes you want to continue to show up. And it's just like those things are taught, on playing surfaces that it's difficult to kind of emulate in the hallways or in certain classrooms. Some teachers do a fantastic job. I mean, I was in a classroom today that I'm like, this is a team. This teacher has a team of 23 students, and they're all in it together with, for one another. And it's a beautiful thing when you see that, but it's awesome how sport can kind of drive that.
Yeah, they really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I mean, that's an old adage, but it's so true. It's so true. Like Sean said, relationships, everything. It really is. That's why, we do the work that we do, and you're doing a great job of doing that and building relationships. Cody's doing the same thing, and Tate, you're gonna have the opportunity to do that as you get into your career. And as long as that's the cornerstone, you're gonna be successful.
No, playing's a lot of fun, man, but there's nothing like coaching. That Friday night, as that rolls around, you're like, it's here, let's go. We did all this work for this moment. There's nothing like seeing, those kids play with pride and end the game with pride and take a knee with a pride at the end of the game. I mean, and showing that because they know how much you care, they're putting it into. I mean, right. There's nothing like that.
So you're telling me you're enjoying this coaching career more than the playing career right now?
I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but absolutely. The playing career, I had a lot of great teammates. I had a lot of skill that, I was able to develop just because of my environment that I was a part of. But I tell you, right, if I go bowling right now, I'm going to bowl a 50. I don't know, man. But everything I did, I had to practice really hard, and I had older brothers who pushed me and teammates who pushed me. It wasn't anything to do with, the results at the end of it wasn't, me or anything along those lines. It's in the coaching piece. It's just like that. It's a lot of fun to kind of dive into it.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you about, I got to bring it up here on the podcast, the Hart student run that beat news podcast and videos that they got going on. You know about that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Oh, there's a couple of guys that when you put them together, they came up with some dangerous ideas. So
Those are the best ones.
they are. They are. Like, I don't know if I should hang out with you on Saturday night. So Troy and Phil DeBro and Sarah Schmaltz sat down, and Troy was really interested in a broadcasting class. So we started messing with it. We've done a couple episodes. We have one more yet to pull off. Now, seniors' last day is next Friday, so it'd be really interesting to see if they can pull that off. But we've got some guys that just have some serious tech skills. Like I always thought Shores had great tech, and then I got to Hart and realized, wow, we're just as good.
Yeah.
And so that's where it started from. Is just someone's idea. All I said was have fun, and it's been pretty cool. I take it you've seen some of them.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
They are pretty cool. They're almost professional. Like they are professional. Like it's pretty cool to see all the students come together to make something like that.
Yeah, the fella named Phil DeBro, he's one of our tech guys. He's got a studio in his basement because our two tech guys are part of a band. The band used to be called 56 Tricks from years ago, and now it's called Ironic. And I guarantee you go into Phil's room and, what we're looking at here, this is some of what Phil has.
We should do a podcast remote from Hart.
Yep.
Ooh.
There you go.
Yeah, on the road. A
That would
road
be
show.
cool.
Let the kids put it together.
Yeah.
I like how you're allowing let's have good intentions about this. You're really good at technology because, there are some students that could use that to, do.
Don't screw it up.
Yeah, exactly. They have some bad intentions in mind. And it's awesome to watch some of these schools, in the area will allow their students to use those good intentions to create an own product for themselves. That's great.
This is kind of a deep question, but it's one that I wanted to ask you. As you're winding down this career, like you were talking about your career, what is kind of something that you want to be remembered by when people think about you, Mr. Platt? What do you want them to think about?
I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that. I'm
Legacy, that's a big question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I'm just pretty comfortable being a person.
Yeah.
And I understand it's a big job, but I don't have a big head. I need a big ball cap, but
All the knowledge.
yeah. I don't know. I've always found it to be rewarding when I see former students and they remember me. I think that's such a blessing.
Yeah, that's cool.
I had a student named Francine Decker. Her name is Francine Rayner now. Every time she's up at Hart, I look her up. I think of Mike Meekoff. You guys have had him on the show. I had Mike for a student for 6 years. So if people remember me as somebody that made a difference in a good way, that'd be good enough for me.
Nice.
So looking ahead then at Hart and what's out there? What's in the next 5-10 years? Bond, new facilities. What's kind of on the forecast?
Well, thanks for getting ahead of my board meeting.
Troy, you don't have to go now. It's all out.
Somebody's got to remind him to show up.
Yeah, fair enough.
Let's go.
So right now, I have some ideas on some things that I would like to do, and if the board was to say yes to some of those ideas, that would probably be the kind of thing to get me to come back for the year after next. I'm scheduled to end my career right now at the end of next school year. However, if the board was interested and if the climate seemed right and we wanted to go out after a bond, I would stay for that if they felt that that's what they wanted to do. Ideally, I would like to pursue an early childhood expansion, something where we could offer daycare. Oceana County really does not have daycare. Daycare is hard to find in this country anyways. I would love to be able to expand our building to create that opportunity for the public. Quite frankly, if you've been to our stadium, we have beautiful grass, but our stands are in deep need of replacing. And then, quite honestly, I would love to do, and I don't know if this will all happen or not. This might be pie in the sky, but I would love to have a partnership with the city and maybe some private investors on some sort of indoor facility where we could do STEM, robotics, yet have a place for our senior citizens to be able to walk inside during the cold months, and not necessarily outside or in the hallways. Just, something similar, but maybe not as elaborate as the Viking Athletic Center.
Right.
So, I don't know. Those are some thoughts.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And let's say, you said you're scheduled through the next calendar year for the school year. Let's say that is the last year. What do you see yourself doing once you're done with that?
Well, I've always joked about being a Walmart grader. I really have. It seems like a pretty good job. I think I might be able to do it. Yeah. The game changed when they said, hey, you got to sit out 9 months. Okay. So I'm not 100% sure. I've wanted to go to work with my hands. I would love to work with a contractor and be the gopher, if you will.
Yeah.
I would like to not be at a desk. I'm not opposed to sales, but I really just am not interested in sitting at a desk anymore.
I thought for sure you were going to say something with fishing.
Yeah.
So, yes, true. I love to fish. It's my favorite hobby, but I don't want to turn that into a career because then it wouldn't be as fun.
That's fair. Just being a grandpa might be enough.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I
don't know if it pays all that well, but it's about relationships.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're just about done here with the CatchMark SportsNet podcast. Once again, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you.
And do you guys have anything else you want to add?
No, I just appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know how superintendent schedules work, and just keep fighting the good fight. And it's one of the
with Babcock.
touche. It's one of those again thankless positions that are vital in the operations of a school district, and so just keep fighting the good fight and doing it for the right reasons.
Hey, thanks. I will say it's been a pleasure to be here. I was looking forward to this, and Hart's been a great place to be. I would never trade that in.
Yeah, thank you for promoting Hart. I think this is something that some people like to try to stay away from, just promoting their area or their school or their town, and it's just nice to have people with pride, with and a sense of urgency about how great their place is. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
There's only one last thing I got to add.
Yeah.
I will be sleeping in the garage or calling you. Thanks for the comments regarding promoting Hart. My wife was the asparagus queen a few years ago.
Okay.
And she is the mayor of Hart right now.
Wow.
So I guess to say we're all in.
This is like starting to turn into Yellowstone or something. You got anyone else on the board that we need to know about? I got a brother. I've got a ranch hand. That's awesome.
Great. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
And for the rest of our viewers, and thanks, Ken. Thanks, Cody, by the way. Tune in next Monday, for the next episode of the Spring CatchMark SportsNet podcast. Yeah, we should be good.
There we go.